Once upon a time, there was a dynasty called Zhu Wuzhu. In the area east of the front entrance of the Mirror Lake residence, we see a young girl who is the maid of the Yun family, who is there in search of the young master Meng Chuan. At that, the soldiers indicate to her that he has not yet arrived, to which she gets upset, but she has no choice but to wait for him. While this happens, the guards at the entrance talk among themselves about Meng Chuan's private life and rumors. Just in that moment, Meng Chuan arrives and is informed that someone is waiting for him. At that moment, the maid comes to him to give him a message from Miss Yun Qingping, who invited him to a distant mountain to spend a moment together. He refuses and says he must train. She tries to convince him in many ways, but she cannot, and he leaves. Meng Chuan arrives at the west side of the Mirror Lake, at the entrance of the Meng residence, looking for his father, where one of the guards informs him that he had to leave to resolve an incident. Disappointed, he goes to the training room where Liu Kaiyu is, and after seeing an excellent shot, he praises her skill with the bow and arrow. They chat for a moment, and she tells him that she does not want to practice with immobile targets and that they better practice together. The fight begins. Liu Kaiyu shoots a couple of arrows which are blocked by Meng Chuan's sword. Because of this, she praises him, saying that his skill with the sword has improved a lot, and proceeds to perform one of his best techniques called 7-star continuous arrows. Meng, who trained to beat this technique, manages to block 6 of the 7 arrows, however, is hit by one of these, thus ending the fight. She praises him because despite having received an arrow, he is the only one capable of resisting 4 of his 5 deadly techniques. The only one he fails to defeat is this one, so he does not have much to worry about. Because he knows that in a life or death situation he will be at the front to protect her, she recommends him to continue training so that he can become one of her protectors in the near future. "I am not qualifying to be your protector," says Meng Chuan. As Liu Kaiyu, one of the best archers in the city, she comments to him that the dean has said that the Yuang Palace is gathering to marry demons, and that, as she is among one of the top 10 disciples of the academy, she will directly enter the demon house. Meng Chuan is surprised and a little regretful, as although he is among the top 10 disciples of his academy, he is still not quite qualified to go. He warns her to be careful as he is worried about her, and in a surprise move he attacks her with his sword, as the practice is not over so they can continue to fight amicably. At the Yun family house, Yun Qingping, Meng Chan's fiancée Yun Qingping, is having tea with her father Yun Fu, and suddenly the family maid arrives, who informs her that Meng Chuan has refused to go to see her because the demon house meeting is coming up next month and he must prepare properly. Yun Qingping is upset because he has already rejected her several times, and tired of the situation, she tries to convince her father to break the engagement, as it goes against her wishes and she did not see anything good. Yun Fan and refuses flatly because she knows that Meng Chuan has a bright future and comes from a good family, so that will be of benefit to them. She, who does not understand her father's wishes and is not willing to sacrifice herself for her clan, starts to grumble, making Yun Fan and lose her temper and start yelling at him, as she does not understand all the sacrifices her family has made for her to be comfortable and live a happy life. And more than that, she is a very coveted woman, so she cannot refuse the marriage, and even if she does not agree, she will have to carry it out, because that is how political marriages are. Yun Fan, once Yun Qingping has retired shedding tears, calls her servant Lu Zhu, who must make sure to take care of Yun Qingping so that she does not make any mistakes, or else she will pay with her life. At the Mirror Lake belonging to the Meng family residence, Meng Chuan and Liu Kaiyu are training with their weapons, attacking each other. The soldiers who are there watching tell each other that 6 years ago the family realized that Meng Chuan had an innate talent with sword, so they sent him to the Taoist temple, where he learned the skill of the sword from Dean Jiyu and gradually began to polish it. But he is already 15 years old and still has not perfected it. So he practices daily everything in order to someday become a demon god and succeed in avenging his mother. At that moment, Meng Chuan's father, Meng Dajiang, enters, who makes them see that after working so hard it is time to rest. He recognizes the great skills of Liu Kaiyu and reminds Meng Chui that there are only 3 slots for disciples, so he must strive to get one. Meng Chuan, who has not yet managed to perfect his technique, asks him for some advice or a trick to master it as soon as possible. But he tells him that he should not worry, because with patience and perseverance he will achieve all his goals. Meng Chuan, disappointed, since his father does not understand his feelings, walks aimlessly trying to clear his thoughts, and that is when he meets Mr. Ma, who is scolding his disciples because he has not been able to advance as he wants. Between scoldings he says a phrase that stays in Meng Chuan's mind, motivating him to continue studying to perfect his technique. Meng Chan is in a library, analyzing book by book and looking for what information would be useful to him. trying to find some information that would help him to become a demon god faster. He finds 3 books that could be useful to him, but the information is very messy. So, after 5 days of trying to organize it, he manages to summarize his notes in 9 main points and goes straight to practice. Each of these 9 notes explain to him how to decipher his technique, but everything is in his hands, since little by little he must understand each one of his movements in order to polish himself. In the subway hall of the Yun family, Yun Fuanin is invoking the spirits who inform him that the 3rd elder of the Meng family has suffered serious injury and probably will not live for long. He is excited, because if the 3rd elder has 7 to 8 years to live, once she dies the Meng family will begin to fall and they can take advantage of this opportunity. The spirit recommends him to cancel the marriage of young King Ping because once that family falls it will not bring them any benefit. After finishing with the invocation, Yun Fan and goes straight to young King Ping to tell her excitedly what he will annul their marriage. He will go right now to the family house for Meng to inform him. She excited and more than that surprised cannot believe what he has told her, and wonders if it is not better to break the news in a kind way. But Yun Fan, excited by the early fall of the Meng family, does not plan to take such trouble. At the Mirror Lake Meng residence, in the studio, Meng Chuan is painting, as he has a great talent for this, and when he is not practicing with his sword, he paints. Meng Chuan talks to his father, as he needs to know the reason for breaking the engagement with the Yun family, and wonders if this will cause the family's situation to be serious, as the families intended for Meng Chuan to marry the daughter of the Yun family leader since they are young, but now, for some reason they decided it was better not to go through with the engagement. When asked about this, Meng Chuan reveals to everyone that he has no relationship with the Yun family heiress young King Ping. He is also not interested in her, which upsets Yun Fan, as he expected Meng Chuan to kneel down and ask him to go back to his daughter. However, this situation does not matter to the Meng family and that he withdraws. After a while, a meeting takes place between the Meng family where they reveal that the engagement between the Yun family and Meng is not important now, that the priority is on the 3rd sister Meng, who has an incurable injury, as she will be back in 2 days and the priority is for her to rest. Elsewhere we see Liu Kaiyu and Meng Chuan having a chat while eating. The latter reveals that his engagement with young King Ping is over and that he is now worried that this decision will end up risking the future of the family. 2 days later, the 3rd sister Meng arrives, who is known as the demon god Meng Xiangu. On the outskirts of Dongning province, we see the 3rd sister Meng Chuangu, who tells the younger sister Huang that she can return, but this time it will be difficult to see each other again, because she is happy to die at home. Huang lets her know that if she needs anything just send a letter and she will do her best to help her. Meng Chuangu, once alone, thanks God to be able to die at home. Meanwhile, in the backyard of the ancestral home of the Meng family, the patriarch Meng Yanping is drinking until Meng Chuangu appears before his eyes. When he sees her he cries because he knows that his injury has no cure. She, who already accepted his fate, tells him not to worry, as long as she does not fight. She could live approximately 7 or 8 years. She does not mind dying, because humans are to grow old and return back to Earth. All gods and demons also share this fate. So without giving much detail to the matter, she asks the patriarch to call the elders to the infernal hall. There they discuss who could be the replacement of Meng Chuangu as demon god. However, for this task no one is a decent candidate, so he orders that from next year onwards the level of training will increase in intensity. The next day, Meng Chuan, hearing that they would increase the resources and trainings for those under 20 years old, gets worried and comes to the conclusion that maybe the family is in a serious situation. Sometime later we are told that Meng Chuan has been training more regularly. This surprises his father, who decides to help him by looking for a high-level master so that his level increases considerably fast. This is how Meng Chuan trains in the morning with his teachers, in the afternoons alone, and in the evenings he analyzes his fights for the next day. After a few days we see Wang Cheng, the empty shadow sword, who was one of Meng Chuan's masters. He is amazed and takes the time to watch Meng Chuan practice. Then a man arrives and asks him the reason for staying longer watching Meng Chuan. He trusts that he only admires Meng Chuan's talent and explains that in the beginning his progress was slow, but now he is advancing at a faster and faster pace. While the master says this, Meng Chuan realizes how his body and movements are no longer different, but are now one, and realizing this, he promises to become a demon god. Early in the morning, at breakfast time, Meng Chuan proposes to Liu Kaiyu a small bet. If she loses, she will have to make dinner for a whole month. But if she wins, he will give her his beloved painting of 100 snails. Liu Kaiyu, convinced that she will win, accepts and reminds him to see that he has not yet reached the rank of cleaning jellyfish. So it is difficult for him to enter the top 3 of the academy. But he, who is very confident, listens to his comments and told him that he will not lose, finishing his breakfast. In the academy arena, when all the disciples have already gathered, the dean gives the order to begin. The 16 disciples of the jellyfish cleaning realm, who belong to the academy, will have to fight each other in order to get a place. Upon hearing the news, all begin to intimidate me, but Meng Chuan, who is very confident, is the first to take a step, because he is not willing to give up, nor to be intimidated. The dean is surprised by his attitude, but he does not have much faith in him, so he waits to see who will be the second to act, and it is Brother Bai, who is willing to fight with Meng Chuan. Once the fight begins, Brother Bai gives the first attack. He throws himself fiercely towards Meng Chuan with the intention of doing some damage, and when he thought he had managed to hit him with his swords, he is easily deceived by the technique of Meng Chuan, who has made him an illusion, winning the fight easily. The dean is completely surprised, as he cannot believe that he has mastered the secret skill called the 5 autumn leaves. Meng Chuan has a flashback of the day he lost his mother. All this happened when an attack on the residence. He and his mother were being hit by the attackers. She, being cornered, decides to sacrifice herself to give him time to flee, and thus be able to save him, asking him to go forward and not look back. Back in the present, Meng Chuan promises himself that whatever it takes, he will be at the demon-slaying conference. The dean demands congratulations from everyone because after 15 years he has a disciple capable of being a demon god. Everyone is amazed and praises Meng Chuan, and the dean realizes that having inherited his technique was the best choice. Just when Meng Chuan is about to leave, Wu Kai enters and demands a fight. A big fight between the two begins. Wu Kai strikes the first blow unsuccessfully, and so the fight progresses. The dean explains to everyone that Wu Kai is above the marrow washing realm. He reminds everyone that there are 5 realms: the foundation realm, the internal refinement realm, the marrow washing realm, the rebirth realm, and the fusion realm. Before the fight reaches its peak, Meng Chuan quickly uses his technique and defeats Wu Kai to end the fight. After Meng Chuan's victory, the entire Meng family speaks in amazement of the great potential he possesses, as he was able to master a secret technique and easily win in his fights. This makes the elders consider him as finally the family's hope. However, the third sister, Meng Chuan Gu, puts their feet on the ground. She makes them see that this was only the first step. He still has a long and difficult way to go to be a demon god. She asks the others to retire, and when she is left alone with the patriarch, she is excited because she finally has hope. Meanwhile, the leader of the Yun family is informed that Meng Chuan has mastered a secret technique. He is surprised and angry at the same time. He can no longer believe it. The next day, Meng Chuan is received with pride by the Meng family. All of them congratulate him and are happy for his great progress, to the point that he is the only topic that is talked about in the whole family. None of them miss the opportunity to make fun of the Yun family because they must be very frustrated by Meng Chuan's progress while he is simply spending his time in the study writing a letter to his mother in heaven. Meanwhile, the patriarch of the Yun family regrets canceling the engagement but clings to the fact that perhaps Meng Chuan might die in the demon-killing event so that he cannot become a demon god. It is finally the day of the demon-killing event, and Meng Chuan is in awe of the Yuang Palace. There we see how Yun King Ping sees him and is shocked. However, she is happy because after the engagement is broken, she is free to choose who to marry. Her thoughts are interrupted by the leader of the Yun family, who warns them, saying that if any of them are scared to see demons, they better leave immediately. Finally, the leader of the Yuang Palace starts the event by bringing a great beast with which they must fight. Finally, the event begins, and one after another the disciples fall. One even loses his limbs, and this makes the atmosphere feel heavy, adding more pressure. However, when it is Meng Chuan's turn, he is far from being afraid. He is glad that it is finally his turn. In the stands, we see how from a distance the leader of the Yun family wants him to die. The beast that Meng Chuan must face is the strongest of all in the place. This makes many feel terrified and glad the leader of the Yun family. But once the demonic beast appears, Meng Chuan launches into the attack. He quickly and with a cut divides it in two, thus culminating the fight. After his quick victory against a demonic beast, everyone is amazed by his great strength and wonder if this is really his first time. But quickly appears the next beast to defeat, which is a tiger that, despite being in its 30%, is one of the strongest. Meng Chuan, far from retreating, prepares himself, dodges the first attack, and manages to hurt his opponent to the astonishment of all. Little by little he is humiliating the beast. However, this suddenly an immense power and attacks him, releasing a great roar. Meng Chuan, despite being stunned, does not retreat and goes directly to receive the attack to defend himself. The attack hits the arena, and just when it seems that Meng Chuan received the blow directly, it was not so. He left the arena avoiding the damage, which surprises even the leader of the Yuang Palace, but this makes him disqualified, and it is the turn of the next fighter, who now prepares as Yan Jin, starts the fight and defeats the beast quickly, but is not proud of them because his opponent was almost finished by Meng Chuan. who is amazed by the great strength and skill of Yan Jin. Meng Chuan, after seeing how Yan Jing retreats, thinks that he is conceited for refusing the opportunity, but he knows that he is a great opponent and in the future he could be an obstacle. The fighting continues, and while this is going on, the leader of the Yun family learns that Meng Chuan discovered his ability without climbing the mountain. The battles continue, but one of the demons sets a trap with the aim of killing all the disciples outside the arena. This is stopped by the leader of the Yuang Palace, who in one simple move kills this beast. Everyone is amazed by the similar power that the leader has, and Meng Chuan realizes that his power is undefeatable. Due to the incident, the leader of the Yuang Palace ends the event, and Meng Chuan decides to return to the province. When he arrives, he sees his master training and cannot believe the great power that he possesses. He makes him see that he can no longer teach him anything else, since he must concentrate on understanding the art of the sword and then go on to polish his technique. Meng Chuan is called by his father Meng Dajiang, who must take him to meet the third elder Meng Chuangu. The nervous greets her, bowing, to what she responds that it is not necessary, and treats him in an affectionate way, to the astonishment of everyone there, because she is usually very strict, cold and hard with everyone. She tells him that she no longer has much time to live due to the great injury she had in combat. There are approximately 7 to 8 years to live, and as the family cannot be left without a demon god, she wants him to be the next one. She will bet and invest all the resources of the family in him because she knows that he can fulfill this responsibility. Meng Chuan at first doubts whether to accept all this help, but understands the situation that the family is going through and promises Meng Chuangu that he will do everything possible to meet the expectations and exceed their expectations. Meng Chuangu is willing to help Meng Chuan with whatever he needs, especially with matters that are related to his sword practice, and he takes the opportunity to ask her for advice on how to improve in order to master and understand his technique. She reveals to him that really each person must find for himself the way to understand his technique, since the most important thing is to follow the direction of his heart in order to move forward. In the residence of the Meng family, in the area of martial arts, Meng Chuan meditates on the knowledge he has acquired, and it is there when he realizes the relationship that exists between the advice that Meng Chuangu has given him and his notes, coming to the conclusion that the most important thing to advance and master the technique is to enjoy the practice, follow his intuition and what he most desires. Suddenly, from behind, he is attacked with an arrow. He realizes and splits it in two with his sword. All this is part of his practice to sharpen his senses, learn to defend himself and escape alive from any dangerous situation, so he is continuously attacked by arrows throughout the day. The practice extends until the night, where he increasingly tries to take his body to the limit to understand the true Kai that is inside him. Outside the city of Wuzhou, in the shadows, Liu Yebai and Meng Dajiang meet to discuss a delicate matter. Meng Dajiang needs their help to find the frozen heart fruit to give it to Meng Chuan, as this will be of great help when it comes to its foundation as a demon god. After several days have passed, they have achieved their goal, so they decide to return to the house Meng. That same day at night, Meng Chuan manages to complete the process of blood washing and jellyfish washing realm, so he goes directly to the ancestral home where he is Meng Chuangu, who, surprised, says it is time to give liquid jade demon, because his learning process has been completed and his body is ready to be trained and thus become a demon god. The one who has been reading and learning about the subject decides to cultivate the body of the Thunder Demon God, since it is the fastest among all the 16 that exist. Meng Chuangu warns him that this style is not easy, since there is a life or death step. He will be attacked by a lightning tribulation, and if he cannot endure it, he will die, so he must have a strong foundation to be able to overcome it. Meng Dajiang takes Meng Chuan to a secret room where he gives him 3 treasures, 2 that he has obtained in his journey and 1 that comes from Meng Chuangu. These are an ice heart fruit, a star spirit herb, and the jade demon liquid. He explains the operation and the benefits that he will obtain by ingesting each one of them, and more importantly, the order in which he must take them to increase his power and achieve the greatness of the demon god. He orders him to return every night to that room to practice in order to become the best. In the secret room, Meng Chuan is cultivating his body to become the Thunder Demon God. He follows the instructions of his father Meng Dajiang and eats the ice heart fruit, which gives him cold energy that explodes in his body and instantly absorbs the energy that comes from the fruit and makes the speed of transformation of his body become faster. After that, he takes a branch of the stellar spiritual herb and puts it in his mouth. It is there when he realizes the incredible power it possesses, since with a single leaf and root hair it completely filled his body with warm energy, making it surrounded by a golden light. A month later, the star spiritual herb has been completely absorbed, and even though he is in his first days of rebirth as a demon god of thunder, his body is completely filled with energy. Suddenly, he is approached by one of the 3 elders who was there to give him a gift that was an inheritance of the demon god. This is an extremely expensive relic and very few can get one, as it is only given to those who possess great power and are qualified to accept the challenge that comes with having it. Once the old man has retired, Meng Chuan and Meng Dajiang go to take a look at the relic. It has a spirit inside who practices under the moon a very powerful technique called Shake the Moon. After seeing it for the first time, Meng Chuan explains to Meng Dajiang that the spirit has given him 9 opportunities to learn this technique, because once he reaches the limit of times he will not be able to use it again. In Yuang Palace, Mei Yuanji is practicing to reach the intermediate stage of the rebirth realm as he failed to enter Yuanshan Mountain, and this made the young men practicing in Dongning feel more pressure. Meng Chuan sensed the winter was going to the dean to give him some advice and took the opportunity to teach and advise the younger brothers in training. It is there when Liu Kaiyu arrives who tells Meng Chuan that he has managed to enter the rebirth realm, which is very difficult to achieve, so they go to celebrate. In the Zhu residence, Zhu Kaiyan arrives very motivated for having received great advice from Meng Chuan, and it is there when one of his servants named Tai Sheng begs him to save his sister who has been kidnapped by the band of black wolves. He immediately went to save her when his father Zhu He forbids him because he will get into a big mess that could harm the family. As he cannot do anything, he recommends the boy to look for Meng Chuan because he is not afraid of the black wolves and could help him. Meng Chuan was with Liu Kaiyu in a restaurant when suddenly they see Yan Jin arrive from the Yuang Palace. Suddenly, they hear screams of a child who is looking for Meng Chuan because he needs to receive his help. When he hears the commotion, he approaches him and asks him what happened. He tells him the situation and begs him to save his sister because he is the only one who can do it. Meng Chuan, Liu Kaiyu and Yan Jin decide to help him and go to one of the 6 fortresses of the Black Wolf Gang. When they arrive, one of the chiefs sees Meng Chuan and gets scared. Hastily denies having done the acts that the boy says. Impatient, Van Jin demands him to release the boy's sister immediately, or else they will die at the hands of a token of the Yuan Palace. He continues to deny the existence of any kidnapped girl, but the sage who accompanied them with his ability could see inside the mansion 7 girls who were brought to them. But to his surprise, they did nothing but flatter the black wolves because they had saved them. Inside is the leader who gives off a demonic aura. He is informed that those who are there demand to deliver the boy's sister, so he decides to avoid problems and deliver her. Once released, he realizes she was not mistreated. She was only in a dark room, and when everyone thought they were wrong, the sage tells them that they must search the place carefully. And that is when the boss appears and threatens them with his evil energy. He does not hesitate to attack, throwing rocks at a surprising speed. Seeing that they are in danger, they decide to retreat, but Yan Jin faces the rocks. This makes the boss interested in him and goes after his capture. The sage tries to defend him without success, and he manages to land a strong blow that breaks his arm, cornering him against the wall. Just when he is about to give the last blow, Meng Chuan uses his new technique, Shakes the Moon. The boss blocks his attack and attacks him by throwing a cursed nail at him. But for more than a year, Meng Chuan has been preparing for such a moment. And in that instant of life and death, his body, his mind, and his sword technique exceed his limits, and he manages to block the attack. But he was not unharmed because he could not feel his right arm, and the demonic energy had penetrated his body. The boss cannot believe it, congratulates him, but is not willing to let him go. In that, Liu Kaiyu throws an arrow which has hit his head but does not have enough strength to do any damage. The sage takes the opportunity and manages to distract the boss, and at that precise moment sends a signal of danger, asking for reinforcements. The boss escapes and everyone goes to see the state of Meng Chuan and Yan Jin, but they are leaning on each other, making it seem that they are fine. After a while, the reinforcements arrive. There is Meng Dajiang, who upon hearing the situation sends to investigate all the Black Wolf Gang's strongholds. The next day at the Meng Mansion, Meng Chuangu gives a good scolding to Meng Chuan because what he has done has been very dangerous, and he is the only hope that the family has, so he cannot take such a risk. After investigations, the Black Wolf Gang is still standing. The Bai family has been fined, and the incident has been solved under the investigation of Yuang Palace. Meng Chuan cannot believe that the world is the way it is, and while taking a walk by the lake, he meets an old man who is fishing. He inadvertently gives him a very important lesson that relieves his worry, and when he gets home, he starts to paint the people important to him, and it is there in the middle of his concentration that he manages to go to a new place, where he can see himself surrounded by petals and a huge galaxy. Being there, he realizes that all his senses have been sharpened. Now he can feel and see the world differently. He can see beyond what is seen with the naked eye. He takes the opportunity to look at his sword and realizes that his technique is not as perfect as he thought. Now he can see many defects and begins to train to get rid of them. The next day after this event, he goes to his father in search of answers. He has no idea, so he goes to Meng Chuangu, who also has no idea what he is talking about. He decides to go to practice, but just before they manage to shoot him, He manages to feel every movement, and that is when he launches his attack where he almost hits the one who shot the arrow. In a ruined residence in Dongning province, there is a sale of rare objects that are worth a lot of money. One of them contains the aura of a demon god. Although it is powerful, nobody knows what to do with it and they leave it in oblivion. Meng Chuan is practicing as usual, now with the objective of polishing his new ability. There he discovers that he cannot feel the arrows that are very close to him. He must dodge them by instinct. He ends up tired of the practice because this ability consumes a lot of energy. After a medicinal bath, he recovers completely, so he takes the opportunity to go to the courtyard to practice, where under the guidance of the power of the heart and soul he releases all his kai, scaring Meng Da Jiang and Liu Yabai, who, feeling such energy, believe that there is an intruder, and when they go to that place they realize that it is only Meng Chuan. They congratulate Meng Chuan because he has managed to understand the power of the sword. They quickly call Meng Chuangu to tell him the news. She is very happy and proud because now the family will be protected, and decides that from that moment on she will live with him to train him. All this will be kept secret until he turns 17 years old. After a few days, while walking down the street, he meets Liu Kaiyu, who, excited to see him, invites him to eat. But suddenly he feels an evil aura coming from a building and tells him to go ahead to investigate the situation. When he enters, he realizes that it is a house of concubines. Once inside, he drives crazy all the women of the place who try to seduce him, but he is trying to gather all his concentration to manage to listen to a conversation coming from the other side of the room. There he realizes that the person who is listening is Zhao Kan, a criminal who has killed more than 300 people. He does not miss the opportunity and goes to his capture, completely ignoring the women. Upon arrival, he is stopped by one of the two guys in the room, who attacks him, trying to hit him in the face. He defends himself, causing great injuries, and being in front of the criminal, who is disguised as another person, causes a fight to break out. In the middle of this, Zhao Kan tries to take a hostage, but Meng Chuan does not allow him to do so, quickly cutting off his arm. He flees to the outskirts of the city but cannot escape because he is faster and stronger, so he ends up cornered. Meng Chuan lets him know that he has no grudge against him, as he is only avenging the lives of those innocent people who died because of him, and kills him. There he realizes that he possessed an object of a demon god, but this seemed to be broken, in that the guards arrive and he gives them all the information of what happened. The news that Meng Chuan killed 2 pirates of the Bloody Cloud spread throughout the province in one night. He is congratulated by Meng Da Jiang because of the great feat he has done and gives him the reward for having caught them. He does not know what to do with so much money, so he rejects it because he had already been given a prize. But seeing the insistence, he decides to keep it because with that he can feed Liu Kaiyu. Once in his room, he observes the black piece of iron that gives off a mysterious aura of demon god. He uses his sensory power to penetrate and receive every bit of information from the iron, and that's when he meets a man at the top of a mountain who condenses a thunder between heaven and earth on his sword. Suddenly attacks him with his sword, hurting him. He spends several days in bed because when he received the inheritance, he was injured. From this piece of iron, he learned a set of extremely powerful skills. It contains 5 sword cuts in succession, which gradually increase, making the last cut extremely terrifying power. After his body recovered, he tried to use the technique, but because it is very powerful in normal conditions, he cannot do it. He uses the power of his soul and heart, but with this he could only use 2 cuts because when he tried the third one, so much energy accumulated and exploded. Behind that black piece of iron are 3 masters who know its origin, as it is, along with 25 other pieces, makes up a book that is worth a lot of money, so they plan to go after Meng Chuan to recover it. After he accepted the inheritance, decides to stop using it before his power increases even more, so he keeps in his subway base. A few days later, he goes out with Liu Kaiyu and Yan Jin to eat, but while there he feels the evil aura of 3 people approaching towards them. So he quickly makes an excuse and goes in the direction of the ancestral house. Making sure that they are following him, he manages to feel the presence of who is behind him and runs away. While running, he realizes that it is an ambush. He is surrounded, or so they think, so they decide to attack him. But they did not count on his power of the heart and soul, which makes him very powerful. He manages to make the hunter the prey now and uses one of his techniques to kill one of them, then runs quickly around the other 2, attacking them in a circle. Another of them tries to attack but fails to settle the blow and ends up seriously wounded. Now there is only one left to defeat, but he begins to flee, so Meng Chuan decides it is time to call for help and launches a call for reinforcement. Meng Chuangu recognizes the signal. Using his ability, he closes his eyes and manages to visualize him. In the middle of the chase, he realizes what his intentions are and why he is fleeing. so he cannot let him go because he knows his true strength and it would be dangerous to reverse it. So he decides to use the technique of the 5 thunders in conjunction with the technique of shaking the moon, managing to give him 3 cuts that would end one of his arms. He thought that his end was near, but he realizes that Meng Chuan cannot move because he has run out of strength. So he decides to jump into a nearby river to flee. That's when Meng Chuan Gu comes into action, and just before it sinks into the depths of the river manages to catch him. She congratulates Meng Chuan for having called her, and asks him the reason for his unexpected increase in power, since the power he possesses is equal to that of a professional and he is only in development. She will take care of everything related to this issue. She will say that she defeated them in order to keep Meng Chuan's secret hidden. The next day, no one knew that he had a fight, and Meng Chuan Gu led a team of 9 family elders and 120 rebirth masters to clear the fortress of the heavenly demon sect in Dongning Prefecture. At the beginning of spring, on the 2nd day of March, news came from Yuang Palace. At the age of 17, Yan Jin understood the sword technique. 3 days later, the Meng family announced that Meng Chuan understood the sword technique, making them promising young men. At night, Meng Chuan was meditating in his room. He already mastered the divine thunder body, so it is time to move to the 2nd level. He must condense a pill with his Kai. The rebirth realm is the most time-consuming of the 5 common realms, and once you enter the immaculate state of the reborn state, you can cultivate to the extreme in about 6 months. If you want to advance further, you can only become a demon god. Those who did not enter Yuanshu Mountain reach a dead end. Meng Chuan Gu was the only one able to manage to complete this path successfully. The stage of perfection and true Kai condensation is the last step before becoming a demon king. Meng Chuan already has his pill ready, and his Kai had transformed into true essence, so the only thing left for him to do is to take the oath and move on to the life or death stage. Suddenly, in the Zhou dynasty, a demon appears and takes the lives of 3 families, causing alarm bells to ring in the Yuang Palace. The leader of the Yuang Palace, after seeing what happened with the 3 families and seeing that he cannot detect the Demon King, fears that war could break out at any time. So he decides to call Meng Chuan Gu, the ancestor of the Yun family, so that they collaborate with the search and security. Meng Chuan Gu and the ancestor of the Yun family make fun of how both families will fight shoulder to shoulder again, but they understand that their personal problems are insignificant before the possible attack of the Demon Kings. While this happens, the demons prepare an attack which is a little limited because the door through which they are going to access is not big enough to attack with the whole clan. The attack begins, and the 2 elders together with the leader of the Yuang Palace realize that there are 4 Demon Kings, 3 double heavens and a triple heaven. This makes the bells ring and the most acts prepare to fight while the rest hide. Everyone is afraid and anxious before this situation, but Meng Chuan realizes that it is time to take revenge. As he remembers the last time the bell rang, he was only 6 years old and lost his mother to the demons, but now it would be different. He has prepared for many years, so his blood boils with anger and adrenaline to begin the deadly battle. And we'll see what happens in the next video. Hit the like button and subscribe if you like it, and if you want the next part, write in the comments the word sword. Thanks for watching.